All right, stand by. It says it's preparing to live stream, so it might just any second go bam. We did have somebody trying to call while we were setting up, so that's a good sign.
Okay.
And there we are. You are looking live. It's the War Chant recruiting chat with Michael Langston. He's the important guy. I'm just Aslan. I'm just here to kind of steer the ship. Thanks for bearing with us. Technical stuff. You know how it goes, everybody. You all work from home. I don't need to tell you how it goes. Anywho, give us a call if you'd like, 850-792-5730. Michael will take your questions. He'll try to answer them to the best of his ability. We also have a slew of questions over on the premium recruiting board that our subscribers have asked. You got to use that promo code WARCHANT30 to get those questions answered, although we'll probably talk about some of those too. But before we start getting to all that, Michael, how are you, man?
I'm fantastic, man. Doing well.
All right.
The world is not falling apart in the recruiting world, believe it or not. If you don't listen to the PRB, you'd think it is, but no, I'm doing great. And I think things are going to start heating up here soon.
All right. What's the latest, man? How are things going on with Mike Norville and this staff? Any new offers or I don't want you to spill all the good stuff that our subscribers are privy to, but I guess big picture, what do things look like right now for Florida State in recruiting?
Well, there's a lot of offers. There's usually between 10 to 12 offers a week. We're doing a new feature that I'm actually I did it in a message board last week, but this week I'm going to do an article, which is basically all the offers during the week. I'm going to break them down in a story, and we're going to get into all those offers. I'll list them all. I'll kind of say what it means, where things stand. And so that's kind of a new feature that we're going to throw in there that, so people can keep track of what these offers mean and, when a guy gets an offer and stuff like that. So, a little new thing I'm doing. And I'm also I've already done a 18 batch of, targets to watch for 2021. And I'm going to do another batch. I'm going to start on that either tonight or tomorrow and, start wrapping that up. So these are new targets from what the other 18 were. So these are other guys that I think they're very active with. So those are kind of a few things that I'm going to be working on. And then right after this chat, we do this chat, I'm going to go in there and I'm going to answer all y'all's questions on the pre-recruiting board. Kind of going to give the summary, maybe drop a few nuggets in there on the board on the summary. And that's kind of where we're at right now, stuff I'm working on.
All right. Do you want to take a question from somebody on YouTube or the subscribers first?
Yeah.
Your call, Michael.
Let's go to subscribers. I like to keep them happy.
That's the right answer.
Whatever you want to roll with, but I'd rather do the subscribers.
All right, man. Let's do it. Let's hear. This comes from Boxing Dragon. Jaden Hood, ? Mm-hmm. Are we finally done with Sorry? I hope so, because he seems Bama and destined, and this is cutting off my screen, and destined to be disappointed with aspirations of a championship there. So, Jaden Hood.
Well, first I'll get on Jaden Hood. FSU is very interested in him. Obviously, this pandemic has kind of screwed up. They've wanted to get him on campus. Michigan is a team that I feel that's very high on his list. I think FSU is also very high on his list. As you can see, there's a few forecasts already for Michigan, but I think FSU is very high on his list. It's a very realistic shot there for FSU with him. And I think he wants to visit right when things open up. So I think as long as FSU gets him on campus, I think he's a guy to definitely remember. He will be in my next batch of targets, but I'd say Michigan, FSU are the teams that I hear the most with Jaden. As far as Sorry, Alabama and Georgia are the teams I hear the most with him. I don't think they're done. I think they're going to keep working on him, but I'd say Alabama probably slightly ahead of Georgia right now as far as where that stands. But no, they're not stopping. I mean, recruiting didn't end in May, guys. I mean, despite what you read on the premium recruiting board, recruiting is just getting started. This is a year-long process, so guys that committed to other schools, I see a lot of people like bringing up like recruiting and, are things falling apart, but no, it's a year-long thing. They're going to push for this kid. They're pushing for Sori. They're going to get him back on campus. So that's not a guy they're just giving up on, but that's kind of where they stand with those two guys on that question.
All right. Let's go to our next question from the Premium Recruiting Board, warchant.com. Comes from Smiley Knoll. Can you tell us about Hunter Washington, the cornerback out of Texas? Is he really interested in Florida State? One of the top cornerbacks on FSU's board? Question mark.
Yeah, it's a really good question. He's a guy that lasts probably 48 hours or even 64 hours. I've heard a lot about him from the FSU contacts I speak with. He's a guy that has a close connection with he's a guy that close connection with Marcus Washington, Woodson. I'm drawing a blank, but he's very close with him. He's very also close with Norville. He knows Norville pretty well. I think he's worked out for Woodson when he was at Auburn and did some things. So they know each other pretty well. And in the tea leaves I get, and I'll get into this more on my nuggets, that, I think FSU is trending in the best direction with him. In fact, I've already put in a forecast for him myself. So I think FSU sits in a good spot. And yes, he's way high on that list. Cameron Graves is also really high on that list, both of those guys. So I think they'd like to get two corners, and I think they're sitting in a very good position with Hunter Washington based on what I'm hearing.
All right. Sorry, I'm dilly-dallying over here trying to bounce between all the windows.
Okay.
I said I'm driving this ship, so it is my fault when things are delayed. Next question here comes from, I don't know, Jamrock. You can maybe answer that one. Hey, let's go to this one. BMOC 1955. We think that means big man on campus, but who knows? Really, who knows? His question is, hi, Mike. For 2021 and our offensive line, would you please list the ideal number of signees at each position?
Well, I think first of all, the tackles is going to be the major position. You'd like to get 3 in this class for tackles. They would like to have a center, which they've already gotten Jake Slaughter. I think they would also like to add one or two guards. So you add that all together, you're talking about 5, 6 guys, and that doesn't even count the grad transfers or JUCO guys that I'm sure there's going to be more guys that are going to appear on our board or my board as far as the guys that I'm focused on. But that's kind of where the positions are sitting as far as how many they would take. But that might expand as far as the tackle position. It just depends on where things trend as far as the tackles. And there's several new tackles I'm going to get into with my new batch of targets. So but tackles is the number one key for this class. I think the staff is very focused on tackles.
All right, folks, if you'd like to, you can give us a call. Michael, answer your question over the telephone, 850-792-5730. This question comes from Booker20. He's an actual moderator, which is crazy. I mean, you can't ask questions. You're some moderator.
He's a person too. He's a person too, Aslan.
Yeah, right. Moderator lives matter. Rough estimate on just how many kids will be getting on campus the first week or two when it's allowed? 50? 100?
A lot. I can't really put a number on that, Booker. I wish I could tell you a number, but it's going to be very chaotic for me and just for the staff when these guys get on campus. I would expect 25 a weekend. There's going to be a lot. I mean, there's a lot of kids. Now, some weeks it's going to be even bigger because, when you have the Miami, week, and then you have, those Florida Miami games, those are always going to be in the 100 range. But I think 25 is the number I would stick with going into it. But I think it's going to be a lot. I think, say they do open up in August or something, I think you're going to see like double digits visit numbers as far as kids getting on campus because they have to make up for lost time. These guys are really itching to get to FSU. So I think in the summer, assuming we start then, it's going to be a lot then. But then, for the games, I think you're talking about 20 area.
All right, man. Let's take the next question. Comes from Maxwell Gibbs. subscriber over on warchant.com. Mike, do you think that because of this outbreak, we could see many players sign with schools closer to home than we have in past cycles? I.e., could this help FSU reel in the likes of Harvey, Arnold, etc., along with some other high-profile guys in the state of Florida?
I think in some cases it will. I think some cases there's going to be more kids that go ahead and jump on board and stay close to home. Some stay close to home, but some don't deviate from what they're looking for. If they feel a certain school's a fit and they don't need to see anything else, then I think they could end early. But I can't stress this enough, is like, no matter what these kids do as far as committing early, whether they commit early or not, you're still going to have to recruit them just as hard as you were if they weren't committed. So say FSU had 5 or 6 additional guys right now, it still doesn't change anything. It's May 6th. It doesn't change anything. You're going to have to still recruit these guys like they're not committed. So I think I could see some guys go ahead and end it. Now, as far as your Harvey and Arnold question, I don't get the sense that those guys are in a hurry to decide. I think they want to take their officials. So I think they'll take time. Now, I've been surprised before, a guy like Harvey, I could see him go ahead and jumping on board. But as of now, right now, I don't anticipate a decision like really quick from those guys. But we'll see if that changes. But yeah, there's definitely, we've already seen it this spring that several guys have already jumped on board of different schools. And I say this, I cannot stress this enough. It's like, this is going to be, usually kids go, unless you're a quarterback, they make like 2 or 3 decisions. So I think these kids that have committed, you could see more decisions coming down the line as far as with their recruitment. So people need to keep that in mind. It's like, I see a lot of people like, it's only on War Chant or FSU fans that I see that when a kid commits to FSU, the first question is he going to stick? And then when a kid commits elsewhere, they just think he's automatically gone forever. It's like, it doesn't work that way in recruiting. There's a lot of guys that are working on, they're committed to other schools that they've been active with, that maybe didn't go see FSU yet, that they will go see FSU once this season starts or once the open period starts. So I think that's important to keep in mind with all this stuff that's going on. But yes, there will be some kids that go ahead and get a place setter, so to speak, of where they feel the most comfortable right now. But a lot is going to change once this thing opens up.
Next question, Michael. Again, from the Premium Recruiting Board over on warchant.com. Use the promo code WARCHANT30 if you're not already a member. Travis Miller, 22. Who's the next person to commit? Highest rated recruit that we are gaining traction with. And apparently there's a highly rated defensive tackle that has Florida State in their top 12. Woo! Where are we at with him? So next person to commit. There you go.
Okay, I'll start with the next person to commit, because you got to give me a little more details than there's a lot of highly rated defensive tackles that they're after. But I go with 2 guys. With that, I think Dustin Payson, a wide receiver from Louisiana, is the one that's always been the next for me. But I think, and we mentioned him earlier, I think Hunter Washington could pop before he does. So cornerback out of Texas. So those are 2 guys I'm locked on. I don't know who would jump in first, but I think those 2 guys are the ones that I'm focused on. As far as defensive tackles, there's a lot of them that they're involved with. Lee Hunter, defensive tackle, Auburn commit. I think FSU is trending in a positive direction there. I think another one is T1 Malone. I haven't talked about him as much. He's a guy I hear a lot of good things as far as FSU, that they feel they're strongly in that picture. And then there's another one, JUCO defensive tackle, Jalen Williams. I could be wrong, but I'll check on that. But he's a guy that FSU's been very active with in the JUCO front, that they would like to sign 2 or 3 defensive tackles, because that's an important position, maybe even expanding to 4. But they're on several guys as far as defensive tackle position. Marquis Robinson's another one from Milton. I think FSU we covered him in the targets breakdown, that he's a guy that they're extremely involved with, that he's a guy to watch as well. So those are just some of the main ones that hope I touched on your question of what guy you're referring to, but there's several guys.
Hey, let's take this phone call. Can you hear the phone ringing?
I can hear it.
All right, let's see. Let's see how this works out. Hey, you're on with Michael Langston on the War Chat recruiting chat. Who is this?
Okay, I can barely hear you.
You can barely hear me. Well, that's unfortunate.
Yeah,
We can hear you pretty
well. Is
well.
this War Chant?
It is War Chant.
Okay, I'm Will Bill Hill 33, been here over 15 years. Just want to ask a question about Dayon Smoke Bowie out of Bainbridge.
All right, so check it out. This is going to happen. I'll go ahead and let you ask your question, then I'll turn it over to Michael. So go ahead.
Yeah, Dayon Smoke Bowie out of Bainbridge, class of 2022, all-purpose player, DB, wide receiver. Just wanted to know. I haven't heard anything lately about him in Florida State. So like he's leading towards Georgia, but
right. You're talking about Dayon Bowie? Is that who you're talking about? Okay. Yeah, Dayon Bowie, he visited back in the summer, as you know. He's a guy that his dad actually grew up an FSU fan. Georgia and Alabama is basically the biggest competition there. I don't think there's a set leader, even though I hear a lot about Georgia. I've talked to him a few times in the last 3 weeks, and I think FSU is very much in there, but I think a lot of it depends on he needs to get on campus. So until he gets on campus, we're not going to really know as far as the status, as far as how high he is. But I know the family has a lot of FSU ties. I think it really is just he needs to see what FSU is about with this new staff, with Norville. I think he already has built a good contact with Coach Woodson as well. I mean, they've already connected well. He likes Dillingham a lot, but I think he wants to see how he feels around this staff. I would say Georgia and Alabama will be a little bit ahead just because I want to see how what his reaction is when he visits. So that's kind of where I think he stands with Dayon.
Oh, okay. I appreciate y'all. Thank you.
You got it, bud.
Thanks, Wild Bill Hill 33. Was that his name, Michael? You know.
Yeah, I know him really well. He's a local guy that I know pretty well.
Look at that. First call went great, man. Awesome.
All right.
Nothing can stop us now, man.
We're cooking.
Stop us now. All right, Travis Miller, also part of his 3-part question is who is the highest rated recruit that Florida State is gaining traction with?
I guess.
Give me a 5-star, Michael. Come on, man. Give me a 5-star.
Give me a 5-star. Yeah, that's a good question. Trying to think of a top 12 guy off the top of my head. Yeah, that's one I'll just have to answer on the board, and I need the time to think about that one. I can't really give you an answer. I don't want to tell you something without me researching and make sure going back on my notes and looking at things. But I promise, Travis, I'll answer that on the board later. I just want to make sure I give it detailed time to look at. Kind of threw me on the spot because I haven't seen, to be honest, guys, I haven't seen a lot of these questions, so I haven't reviewed. So this is a lot of the first time I'm seeing them too. So, but I will get to it. I will touch on your question on the boards when I do the wrap up later, Travis, and I will get in detail about it. A few guys that I think could possibly fit that category.
What a diplomat you are, Michael.
I'm just being honest.
I know. I'm just giving you a hard time, man. So BMOC 1955 is back. He's got a question, but hey, man, we got a phone call. Let's
do it.
Uh-oh. It's an unknown caller. I'm not answering it.
Answer
By the way,
it. Let's do it.
No, I'm not answering an unknown. No.
Give it a shot.
No, not doing it. Actually, everybody watches. I'm going to hang up on this person. There you go. Oh, take it.
I am.
All right. BMOC 1955 says, regarding our coaches, Florida State, that is, who is our MVP recruiter at this time?
That is a really tough one. I'm going to go with David Johnson right now so far. I mean, he's the guy I hear the most about with recruits. Kenny Dillingham is another really popular guy, that I hear a lot around recruits. As usual, I also hear Odell Hagen's name a lot, as far as, defensive end, defensive line. So, and then probably the unheralded guy that we don't talk about as much that does a really good job with recruits is Chris Marv, the linebackers coach. He's a guy that's, I think, is very underrated as far as the grunt work that he does behind the scenes, the grunt work as far as laying down the foundation. So those are the 3 guys that kind of jump out to me.
All right.
Marcus Woodson too. Sorry, Coach Woodson. Excellent job as well. So that's a hard question. Like I said, there's several guys I could mention, but David Johnson's the first one that pops in my head.
Don't ever apologize for interrupting me, Michael. This is your show. It's your world. I'm just glad to be here. All right. Next question. As we go back to my browser window, which is on the phone call screen, but here we go. FSU Knoll 07. They've been around since August 1st, 2008. Thank you for your patronage. Appreciate that. Any concern, Michael, with offensive lineman Jake Slaughter? UF offered him on May the 4th, and it's a popular area for Florida.
Yeah, Cal is not that far from Gainesville. I get it. I get why people would be concerned with that. Certainly it's a significant offer, and I actually, when he got that offer, I called him the next day, and me and Jake talked, and I asked him, was this change anything? He's like, it doesn't change anything at all. And at this point, I'm very comfortable with my commitment. He was very solid in how he's feel, but it's also going to be a situation where FSU has to keep up the pressure and stay on Jake, because I'm sure Florida is going to try to get in there and make a push. And it's certainly a team that's not far from home, and team that he might go check out. I don't know. But I don't consider it a threat or concern right now with Jake. I think things look pretty good there. I think FSU had set the standards so well when they, with the relationship they set early with him, that I think that's a big deal as far as trust that Jake built with them early on. So I'm not that concerned, with Jake Slaughter right now.
FSU Knoll 07 said, come get you some. I got more. He's got a second question, Michael.
Okay.
He asks, any shot at offensive lineman Isaiah Walker? He was an early enrollee freshman at Florida who entered the transfer portal. Yeah,
that Isaiah Walker, for those that don't remember, he committed to Florida, I think, I want to say last year, in the 2020 class. FSU was heavily involved. It was when Telly Lockett was here, and he really liked FSU. Now, he doesn't know this new staff, but they have been talking. Both sides have been talking. The last 2 nights, I know they've been talking on the phone together. I've got that confirmed by a few people. I'm going to cover more of him in a nugget as well. But I think there's legit interest. I think Miami and FSU are the teams to watch. I think both teams are kind of feeling out to see how interested he is and see, what. I think FSU is very interested, and they know that he would be a take for sure. And I think there's mutual interest, there's solid interest, and I think he's a guy that, they're going to push to get into this class or get into this, the FSU program. They want him. I think Miami's kind of a wait and see, whether they're checking the feeling it out process right now. But I think FSU's, there's definitely mutual interest there, and certainly he's a guy they would love to have.
Oh, almost did a spoiler. Look at that. Fixed it all already. Next question comes from a Cooper Philpott 01. Since we are needing defensive tackle, should that be Copper? Is that the guy from the Goonies? I don't know. Anyhow, since we need another defensive tackle, by we, he means Florida State. What are the chances of us, he means Florida State, getting Marquis Robinson?
Yeah, there's that's an interesting name. Chester Copperpot's the name of the thing. In
there it is. There it is. My man.
I'm a nerd, man, in movies.
No, you're not, man. Everybody watch Goonies, man. Come on.
Marquis Robinson is a guy they're very active with. I think it's a close battle with them in Auburn. I think the best relationship he has is with Odell Higgins. He's known him for a while. They're close. I think I keep hearing people close to him keep telling me, like, FSU is the team to watch, and Alabama's another team to keep in mind. I think there's intrigue there as well. I think Auburn is very, very much in the mix. But yes, I think there's a realistic shot and a legitimate shot. I think he is very high on FSU. I checked with a few people that are close to him, and they keep reiterating that same point that he is very high on them, and he hears consistently from FSU. So I think he's a guy that certainly I could see them pulling.
Got another question, Michael. Guess where it's coming from? The Premium Recruiting Board, warchant.com. you're not part of it, come on, man. War Chant 30 for days of access. Try it. You'll like it. Cheech 1. They've been around since March 14th, 2003. This is only the 331st message they've ever posted. They only have one like. They've been around for over 17 years. Only one like. We're going to change that.
There you go. You got 2 now.
Make it 2. Hey, Mike. After seeing the final installment of the recruiting targets, I was wondering if we are still recruiting Omarion Cooper. I believe that's his name. Have not heard anything about him in a while.
Yeah, Marion Cooper is a DB from Lehigh over there in Southwest Florida. First of all, it's not the final installment. It's my most recent installment, but it's not my final one. I think FSU is very high on him. I think FSU is still pushing hard for him. He's a guy that when he visited back, I want to say in the spring, he said that FSU was sitting in the best spot, and I think FSU is the team to watch there for Omarion Cooper. So, yes, just because I didn't list them in that 18 targets to watch doesn't mean that FSU is not involved. They're very involved with him. He will be in my next group of guys, but certainly FSU is a major factor there. There's certainly a solid chance there. South Carolina is also in the mix. There's other schools that are in the mix, but his recruitment probably won't take off or explode until you get to, summer visits and fall visits.
Buckle up for this one. It's a long one, Michael. Easy Knowles fan 74. Why is FSU ranked number 45 and continuing to slide when all these programs are experiencing the same issue and also had a bad 2019 season? Plus, not being able to host players on campus with coronavirus stay-at-home orders. It doesn't help that Mac Brown has North Carolina ranked number 3 in the country with 14 commitments after going 7-6 last season. I have North Carolina and Clemson neighbors around me, and I'm starting to – this thing Zoom keeps blocking everything. I'm starting to hear it on a regular basis from these folks when I'm jogging outside around the neighborhood. What's going on with these guys?
Well, first of all, I'm going to state the obvious. Yes, they're fighting a disadvantage because this is a new staff that kids need to see what they can do. It really hurt them that they couldn't have a spring game. So that hurt as far as you probably could have had 4 to 6 commitments already. If you say you had a spring, you had a summer, kids on campus, they see what FSU can do. These other schools like Tennessee that we've seen blown up, North Carolina blown up, kids have already seen what these schools are doing. Whether they've only 7 wins or 8 wins, schools, recruits have already seen what they could do. And I go back to my point earlier, these commitments right now are not a big deal because you're still going to have to go back and recruit all these guys consistently and hard. So I wouldn't fret or start hitting the panic button. I'm not hitting DEFCON 5 on my panic button in the Langston household. I think there's several guys that they're involved with that they feel good about their position, but I think people have to preach patience because kids need to see and be on campus and see these players.
Hey, let's take this caller real quick. Hey, caller, you're on with Michael Langston on the warchant.com recruiting chat. Who is this?
Hi, this is Drew Barnhill. I post as AAA Drew.
Okay. All right, Drew. So I'll let you ask your question. Michael can hear you right now, but you can't hear him. So I'll let you ask your question, and then I'll turn it over to Michael. And if you could, maybe mute your computer or whatever you're listening to.
I just did. I turned down the speaker.
Attaboy, Drew. Appreciate it. Go ahead, man. Let it rip.
Yeah, basically, I'm up here at Woodstock, Georgia, which is right outside of Atlanta. And I was wondering about Amarius Mims. There's a highly rated guy that you might want to talk about as far as the ones that they were talking about earlier. Would love to see us get him. And I also want to tell everybody to relax. It's just May, and there's a lot can happen. I want to talk about
thanks for the question. Obviously, there's a lot to unpack there. First of all, your last point was right on the money where you talked about it's May. And, people, whether, and I say this consistently, whether they got 5 or 6 guys added right now, it wouldn't change anything because you can't sign until December. That's the point people seem to miss. Yes, it would be not, they do need some recruiting momentum. It would be nice to get a commit or two to get the ball rolling. That is needed, and certainly would be a positive thing. Now, as far as Amarius Mims, that one looks probably right now, I'd say Georgia is looking really good there so far. Now, I will say Georgia and Florida State are the teams that I hear the most with Amarius. He's really, really close with Kenny Dillingham. That relationship is not fallen off at all. He's also has a good relationship with Alex Atkins, the offensive line coach. He talks to them actively. I'm not going to fall onto that bandwagon as far as though just because of relationships. I still think Georgia is the team to watch. Now, if they get him on campus, I could see that momentum shifting some. But right now, if I had to pick, I'd say Georgia looks the best there.
All right, thanks a lot.
You got it.
Look at that, Michael. You're a pro. Way to be. Hey, let's take another question. Let's keep this thing going. Stops for nobody. Just whenever we're done and I want to eat or something, then we stop. But at that point, whatever. Doke 2983, tight end, Myles Campbell. He's set to announce on May 18th. Are we getting him?
I like that. Direct. Like, that's right to the point. At tight end position, Myles Campbell is one of those that really, the coronavirus really hurt them because he looked really good. It looked like things were trending in a good direction for FSU. He had been talking to FSU. He's liking what Norville's doing. He knows the staff. So that really hurt the fact that they couldn't get him on campus when he was expected to come around the spring game. So that hurt. Right now, I don't think they're going to get him. I do think they will add a tight end. I think Michael Trig Jr., a 4-star tight end, is the guy to lock into as far as a name. But I think Myles will probably go somewhere. I just can't see a kid picking FSU when he hasn't been there yet and kind of experiencing the different things with the visits. But he's another kid that I say it again, they can commit, and it's almost like place setters to what's going to happen. Like, you have a wave right now of recruiting of these commits happening, then you're going to have a second wave of guys once things open up, and it's going to start all over. That's why I think decommits is going to be at probably the highest level we've had. But I think he's another one that I think they'll go back after hard. But Trig's the guy I'm locked in on. I think the FSU's got a really good shot at landing him, but can't say that Myles will come to FSU without visiting.
How about them Noles? Michael, can your intel be put into a Nuggets format? Of course. Michael's going to go back and literally answer all these questions again on the premium recruiting board, right?
Yeah, that's kind of what I did last week with the summary. I'll throw some nuggets in there this time. I think I'll have a few, not a lot, but there'll be a few in there that I'll throw in there with the summary, and I'll kind of go into detail about stuff. But yeah, I try to do that. I mean, I give so much with the targets and the breakdowns and the new offers and stuff that, I try to leave a little bit with the nuggets. So I will definitely do that as far as the format and throw more stuff in there. But I give so much on the targets that I break down all the new guys. It makes it difficult and challenging. So I try to keep it fresh to give you guys something new every time. So yes, I will be doing that in the summary.
All right, let's scroll on down here. I think you already mentioned him maybe a minute ago, if I was paying attention, or maybe I wasn't paying attention properly. Boggy Man, not Boogeyman. Boggy Man, 2 G's, 2 N's. He's been around since December 28th, 2005. That's awesome. Appreciate that. He's got 2 questions, or got 2. 1, when is Trig going to join the Noles? And Payson was supposed to commit soon. Are we really worried here as the time goes on?
Well, there was never a timeline, first of all, with Payson. I heard it was going to be soon. I still feel FSU looks like a really good shape there as far as Payson. I haven't changed any feelings or confidence. My confidence hasn't changed there just because there hasn't been a set date. Like I said in our previous chat, he might have a date in mind and just hasn't shared. He wants to pop it on everybody and at the last minute. But I still feel good about where things sit with Payson. There hasn't been any change as far as who his favorites are, and that FSU is certainly in the driver's seat. I still think it's that. I'd heard it'd be a couple weeks, but again, he never set a timeline. So that's kind of just me and what I heard, that he might pop in that time frame of a few weeks, but I wouldn't be concerned with that one at this point. And then with Trig, I don't know when he'll pop, but I do think when he does, barring something changing that I'm hearing on multiple, sources of format, I think FSU is poised to land Trig. I just don't know when. And there's not a set time or date when he wants to decide, but I think FSU is looking really good there.
Again, Michael Trig from that football factory, Seffner Christian Academy.
Yeah.
No, never even heard of them. Good for him, though. Fantastic. Let's see here. FSU Kenny. Let's go to him. He's an interesting fellow. Question. He's been around since 2002, April 1st, 2002. We appreciate that. That's awesome. Are some coaches going to end up relying on the transfer portal and JUCO to get their starters? And part two of the question, does it look like we, Florida State, may be headed that way?
Well, I think Norville has addressed that, as he said, that we're going to go after the best prospects. We're going to go to the best guys that fit everything that we do. So I don't think whether you get every guy that you want in the high school situation, they're going to still focus hard on the JUCO and the transfer market, because in most cases, at least the transfer market, those guys are usually ready to play and help you right away. So I think transfer market is going to be active. I think FSU landed like 5 to 7 guys in the transfer market alone from last year when Norville got here. So I don't think that trend's going to change. I think you'll see them very active with that at positions that they feel like they need guys. We saw that with Cornell Jones, a linebacker. We saw that with Jayshon Corbin, running back. We saw that with defensive tackle Jared Jackson. So there's been several guys, offensive lineman Deontay Taylor, who's poised to be a guy that could be starting. So I think that's going to be a big part of their recruiting, is they're going to focus hard on the transfer market if it fits everything that, as far as what they're looking for in that position. But I think they're going to be very active there. I don't think that's going to change. I think it's actually going to get stronger. I think they're going to cover and lift up every stone. They're going to make sure that if there's a chance they can get a kid, whether it's JUCO or transfer or high school, they're going to get it done. And they've shown that since they've been here. So I don't see that changing.
Hey, let's take a question from YouTube. She threw money at us. I mean, literally, she threw $2 at us.
Okay.
Pretty cool. So let me see what her question is. Her name is Sandra Gordon. She says, look at my grandson, James Williams, 2023 class from Gainesville, Florida, wide receiver, B high school. I don't know. Are there any high school in Gainesville with B? I don't know how that works out. But we'll keep that person in mind. She also asked a question earlier about, where was it? Irish Walker, Isaiah Walker. That's what she means.
Okay.
Irish Walker.
Okay.
Guy that decommitted from the Gators.
Mm-hmm.
But it's Isaiah Walker, right? And you've offered your opinion on that one.
Yeah.
So, well, Sandra, we appreciate it. Thanks for tuning in. Let's get back to the questions.
I do know the one, the James Williams guy she was talking about. He's a guy
you know about a guy in 2023,
yeah.
Michael, you crazy man, you.
Yeah, he's a guy that they like. He's a guy to watch. He's a guy that's going to be FSU's going to be very active with. I fully expect him to take a visit to FSU once things open up. Obviously, he's a ways down as far as to worry about a decision, but he is a guy that I've heard in the FSU circles several times that he's a guy they're interested in.
Oh, somebody had a decent question. Brad Johnstone. Are there any obviously Florida. Are there any Orlando area high school players of interest?
Oh, yeah, there's several. Two that come to mind are running back Tristan Lee and wide receiver Tommy Hill. Both of them play on the same team at Orlando Edgewater. Christian Leary is actually the #1 target, based on what I've heard, for this staff at the 4-back position. And what the 4-back position is, it's basically the same position that they recruited Corey Wren at, which is basically a mixture between running back and receiver that they can use all the time. That's why they call it 4-back. So he's a guy that they are pushing extremely hard for. Oklahoma's also in there. So I think FSU, Oklahoma are certainly really high on his list. Tommy Hill has a lot of West Coast teams, but don't let that fool you. Don't let these top 7 lists fool you, especially with Tommy Hill. He is very enamored by FSU. And as long as FSU keeps pushing and keeps working on him, I think he's a guy that there's a really good chance. There's a really good shot there. Let me get some water.
Back to the boards. Oh, all right, go ahead. That's fine, Michael.
You
can step aside. I'll tap dance and entertain the masses here. Fortune Born, you're on deck. You're also in the hole because you went back to back. And then FSU Nolo 7, you're whatever is after in the hole. I don't know. I didn't play baseball.
Sorry for that stoppage, guys, but I was just
Look
dying
there.
there.
Michael's back. Thank gosh. I don't know what I was gonna do. Oh, geez. This computer is great, but also gives me a headache sometimes. Fortune Born, Michael asks, how active are we, Florida State, with junior college defensive tackles and defensive backs? I noticed we, Florida State, just offered the nation's #1 JUCO cornerback out of Maryland. There's another cornerback in JUCO we are on, we being Florida State, that's 6'4". Are we, again, Florida State, high on him?
Yeah, you got to give me a little more details, guys, than just
I'm pulling up the JUCO thing here, man. The #1 JUCO DB, according to Rivals, is Marco Damio.
I think you're looking at 2020.
I am. You're right. Look at you. Look at me. I'm going to stop pretending I know what I'm doing.
But, yes, they have offered one cornerback. He's out of Maryland. I mean, his name slips my mind right now, but he's a guy that's already been offered. He told me he's going to visit, and I will get his name and put it on the board later when I answer his question directly. But he's a guy that told me he's going to visit. The moment FSU opens up, he wants to go down there and be around there in the summer. So August, I think, would be a perfect time for him. Defensive tackles, I've already covered Jalen. I think Jalen Williams is his name. He's a guy that FSU had already offered. They're active with him. Dillingham has a relationship there. Odell's been zooming with him a few times as far as talking. So there's a lot of traction there. I think there's positive momentum there, but he hasn't. I asked Jalen, if he had a leader. Right now, he didn't name a set leader, but he did say that FSU is probably one of the schools that recruit him the hardest. So that's one guy, but I'm sure there's more. But I think the JUCO front, they'll be active there. I kind of refreshing what I've already said, that JUCO transfers are going to be really active in that area, as they've shown with cornerback and defensive tackle. But those are kind of a few guys. I will get you the name of the cornerback. I will even see if I can find the guy you're referring to as far as the 6'4" corner. I'll have to look that up, but and research it and maybe check with a few people. But I will get you his names when I answer questions on the board. But right now, I'd say those are two positions that they would like immediate help if they can at those positions.
Michael's the best. See, I literally just been like, I don't even know what the guy's name is. You're not even giving me the guy's name. I'm not answering your question. But Michael's going to step aside from his life and being a husband to his wife, and he's going to spend time researching all this and then answering it for you on the PRB. That's what he does. Fortune Born continues with another question, Michael. Tristan Lee. We all know Tristan Lee, right? I've never heard of Tristan Lee, but that's
offensive tackle. I think high 4-star, some 5-star on some networks.
Who cares about the other people? How active is Florida State with Tristan Lee? Any interest in the good guys?
They're very active with him. I think his interest is certainly there. I think it's more about him getting on campus and visiting to really where I can really say this is where things stand with him. But I think right now I'd say Clemson is the team that I hear the most with him. But at the same time, I heard somebody tell me that he might not be Clemson might not be all in, and they might be waiting on several guys. So. But right now, I'd say Clemson was the team that I've heard the most consistency about. But he does have interest in FSU, and he does have relationships with Alex Atkins and a few other coaches on the staff. I think Norville's Zoomed with him a few times and talked. So I think key with him is just getting him on campus. And then I can tell you, and he does plan on visiting FSU, but until he visits, I can't really give you an explicit, detailed answer as far as how interested he is. But they do talk, so I will say that. They do talk, and there is communication there.
Got a strong hairline. Kind of jealous of it. Good for you, Tristan. Keep it. Let the locks flow. Let the locks flow. Let's see here. Oh, boy. Here we go. FSU Nolo 7. They're back. I think they posted earlier. August 1st, 2008. It's a good run. Appreciate that. Here we go, Michael. Prepare. Write this down. Are we, Florida State, heavily pursuing any of these wide receivers?
Okay, I'm going to let Aslan
Corey Brooks.
Go ahead.
Well, you want to say like yes or no, and then you can maybe.
No, I was just going to say leave the screen up when you get finished asking the question.
All right, certainly. Oh, that's right, because you can see it too.
Yeah.
Anything is crazy, brother. It's crazy. Ja'Cory Brooks, heavily pursuing him.
Yes, Ja'Cory is. They've already offered him, and they're heavily pursuing him. I think the Gators probably hold the edge right now. Deion Colsley, I think he's probably a Georgia lean. He's a former Notre Dame commitment, but they are very active with him too. He's already been offered by FSU. Ajay Hall, that one's that he's committed to Alabama, but it would not surprise me if he opened things back up, later once the season gets going and visits are talking about. And so definitely there's going to be activity there. He's visited FSU like a billion times, but Brian Thomas, kid, they've also offered. They're very active with him. A lot depends on when he visits. When he visits, then we can kind of get a better feel. Isaiah Breffard from Mississippi has ties with both Dugans and Dillingham, along with Chris Marv as well. FSU, he told me FSU is one of the schools that's recruiting him the hardest, so I think there's definitely a strong chance there. I've already covered Destin Payson. I think FSU's in the driver's seat there. Keon Coleman's another one. I think they're trending in a very positive direction, but we have to see what happens when he visits. So a lot of these kids you're listing, a lot's going to determine when they visit, and then I can get a really strong feel for if FSU could pull him. But I would say out of that list, Payson, Coleman are one of the main ones that Brevard are some of the main ones I think you could see in this class.
How's that water? It looks very refreshing. It's very cold, crisp.
It's very cold. I've got like 400 bottles in my garage
That's where all the water's at. That's where all the water in Tallahassee is. Smith SD FL. Been around since October 9th, 2003. I like Mike Norvell's 3 quarterback commits in 5 months. Really, in the first 2.
Mm-hmm.
Michael Langston. Do you expect another in the 21 class? And if so, whom?
Yeah, it's a good question. I don't think it's a necessity for them to add a second quarterback because I think they are so excited about Luke Altmaier coming in. I mean, that's the guy that they're locked in on. Could they add another one? I think Jake Garcia is a possibility. He's a USC commitment. He has Dillingham ties. We've already covered the possibility of a transfer with JT Daniels. That's kind of something I'm waiting to hear more information on. I know you guys want me to give you more, but I just know I've heard that he's maybe possibly deciding in the next 2 or 3 weeks. I have heard that there's some communication, but I don't know the details of that communication. FSU side has been kind of quiet in the JT Daniels pursuit, if there is any or how much there is, but I think if they do add one, it's not going to happen until later, past the summer or fall, where if somebody just jumps out at them, it's like they are so sold on Luke Altmaier. I cannot put in the words how much they feel that he's our number one guy. So regardless, if they do go after a guy, it's mainly going to be a different type of quarterback, that separates from Luke, maybe a more of an athlete, maybe more of a, dynamic guy that can run kind of like a Chubby Purdy or something like that. They added in the 20 class. But right now, I don't hear like a strong push to add another guy. But I think that if there is going to be one, it's not going to be addressed until they start landing these other positions. Or I just don't think it's a necessity. But right now, I'd say no. But there's a possibility. There's several guys they have talked to.
Man, hope they are able to hold on to Altmaier. The whole fact of him being in Starkville gives me the willies. Let's go back. Another question comes from, speaking of Starkville, Mississippi State, Bulldogs. S. Dogfather. Been around since 2008. Appreciate that. How big of a class do you think we get?
I would say 23, if I had to guess, around that number. I'm going to check on that over the weekend to see if there's any change with that. And then the other question is, any chance Philip O'Brien flips from Auburn? Philip O'Brien is a DB from Deerfield Beach. Norville wants him badly. I think there's a solid shot that they could flip him. I think there's several safeties they're involved with, and he is very high on their radar. They have not slowed that pursuit. Visited FSU a couple of times. Actually grew up a fan of the Seminoles. His uncles are Zach and Henry Crockett.
Nice.
So there's connections there. I think he wants to see what they're going to do and what their team's what the DBs are going to look like, or just the team in general, what they look like. I think if that's a positive, then I think yes, there's a good chance that you could see FSU pulling Mr. O'Brien there.
Square jaw. Good look for a safety. He's got some stripes in his eyebrows, though.
Can't see the other question because Aslan left it.
Absolutely.
Okay, still looking good for Andrew Jones. Yes, there's a lot of offers. Texas offered, Georgia offered, Mississippi State offered. I still think FSU sits in the catbird seat there. I think he wants to take official visits. That's been a big deal to him, that he wants to take official visits before he does anything. But I think the relationships he has with FSU, and FSU is the coveted offer that he desperately wanted, and they got on him so early. That is so key in these recruitments when you get on these kids early. That's why you see every week that I mention 2022, 2023 offers that I go over and I recap and I break them down. They're now caught up on 2022 guys in 2023. So they're on par with everyone else, but it's so key that they got on Andrew Jones. The kid wasn't even a star. He didn't have a star ranking when FSU offered him. So FSU got on him. I think that's made a big impact as far as him, and I think they still sit in a good spot there.
Boxing Dragon has a question for you, Michael.
Okay.
I'm not even going to read it since you can read yourself. I'm just kidding. Is Norville telling players that are ready to commit to hold their commitment?
That's a good question, Boxing, and I haven't heard that they are. But it wouldn't be – I don't know. It just doesn't seem Norville's type of way of doing things. If a kid wants to pop, they're ready to do it. Now, they do – pinpoint when they would like the guys to do it in different times, not having all in one day. But I don't think they're like pushing kids to say, hey, hold off your commitment until so-and-so. So I think I don't think there's any validity to that they're pushing kids not to commit. But they definitely feel like I definitely feel like they feel they have some guys locked up.
We're getting a phone call, but they already called, so we'll go to our subscriber.
Okay.
That's the way I run the ship around here. You got questions, you can call, but you can't keep jumping in and out. Check this out. XDQ004. First ever post. They've been around since 2014. Amazing. So they pretty much joined the week after the national championship. So
one message.
Yeah, it's first one. Thanks for hanging around. Here you go. First time posting. I read something about Fabian Lovett taking down his Florida State stuff off of his social media.
Right.
Is there any smoke to that story?
Well, that's more of a team thing, but I would say I have not heard any change from FSU's stance on it. I think FSU still feels he's coming. I haven't heard anything from people close to Lovett that have told me that he's not. I haven't heard anything as far as new schools jumping in there that he could possibly, decide to go there elsewhere. But I have not heard anything. I know when he originally made his commitment, like edit thing that he put up, that got a lot of unnecessary comments in there. So he took that all down. So maybe that had to do with him taking everything down, as far as just so people would leave him alone. But I have not heard anything that shows any validity to that story right now. Everything I've heard is that he intends on being at FSU. Now I'm monitoring that. Ira's monitoring that. We're keeping track of just if we hear anything new, but I have not heard anything new to change my mind that he doesn't plan on transferring to FSU. But we're going to keep tracking that. But as of now, that's all I have right now.
Yeah, I'm pulling up his Twitter, as you folks can see. It's pretty scrubbed of any sort of hint of anything.
Yeah.
Anyway, that was it. That's the last question. I'm gonna hit refresh just to let everybody know. Yep, that's it. That's the last one.
Look at there.
There we go, Michael.
And the main thing I would say right now, recruiting, I know people are stressing because it's the only thing you can follow because there's no football, there's nothing going on. But no, this is not the time to hit DEFCON 5 on May 6th, to hit the panic button. Yes, it would be nice to get some momentum going and get a kid in. I think eventually that's going to happen in the next week or so. I think one of these guys is going to jump on board. There's no timeline, though, when these kids want to come in. When they want to do it, they want to do it. Tennessee and North Carolina and these other schools, they've gotten kids to, push them to jump on board. The thing with FSU is they push them, but they want these kids to make sure that if you're committing, we're committed to you, be committed to us. So when they commit, that's going to be it. But I wouldn't be overly concerned. There's several top programs that have the same amount of commit list that FSU does. They're way down there. I think Alabama and Auburn. There's several other schools that you're usually top notch every year that have low commit totals. It's just a matter of when guys want to do it. And I can't stress enough. It's like, say you got DB Dink Jackson. Say you got wide receiver Destin Payson. Say you got Michael Trig. Say you got Andrew Jones committed. Say all these guys committed, it still doesn't change what you have to do. It still doesn't change. It makes you feel good because you see them on the commit screen and you commit totals and they're committed to FSU. But at the same time, it doesn't change anything in the way you're going to operate. You're still going to have to re-recruit all these guys when the schools get going, when kids start taking visits to different places. So to me, it doesn't really change anything on May 6th. It's going to be a full process where you're going to have a second wave of schools pushing. You're going to have these kids that'll be on campus. You're going to have these game atmosphere these kids go to. So if FSU takes care of what they're supposed to do on the field and they show a positive product and they keep winning these kids over when they get them on campus, they're going to be fine. Like my pinpoint as far as this class that I look at, because it's like a bridge class to me because this is first class, top 15 is what I'm looking at. If they get top 15, which I think is very attainable, I think it's a successful season. Then in 2022, that's when you start talking about top 5 classes, because then you establish what your program is. Kids see what your program is. Then you start getting the recruits like North Carolina and Tennessee that all these fans have just psychoanalyzed as far as breaking down. And as I've said, these teams have already shown what they can do. Yes, North Carolina lost to Appalachian State and lost some games that they shouldn't lose to, but at least kids know what their team is going to be and what they look like. Tennessee, same thing. They've got some top-notch recruits, but kids kind of see where they're going and where the weaknesses are. So kids need to see that with FSU, and once they see that, I think it'll start taking off. I think I'm going to say this straightforward as I can. I think they have the right guy. I think FSU absolutely 100%, from the nutrition, from the strength and conditioning, from the work ethic, the understanding, the culture, the organization, the preparation, all the little things, special teams. This guy gets it, and he brings it, and he's bringing the work ethic, and he's not just talking about it. I think they released today how all these kids have done in the classroom, averaging a 3.1 GPA. So this guy's focused on everything that he wants FSU to be a lead at, but we have to let him do his job. I have to let him do his job, but I think they have the right guy. Just on what they need and what FSU's built on, I think he's the right guy for what they need. But I just wanted to say that. I want to get that off my chest that I know people are panicking, but I think FSU is going to be fine.
If you had a mic in your hand, you would drop it, and we would just
drop
fade
my
to black.
headphones. I can drop my headphones.
No, don't do that. Don't do that. All right, folks. Again, if you're not a member of warchant.com, you're missing out on a whole bunch of stuff. Not the least is all the great insight that Michael has when it comes to recruiting. He's going to go back on the premium recruiting board and answer all those questions in a written format. So if you're just joining us, or you don't want to sit through and watch the entire replay, it's fine. Go to the premium recruiting board. All the information, the intel, the nuggets, they'll all be there for you, courtesy of Michael. Use the promo code WARCHANT30 if you're not already a member. For Michael, I'm Aslan. Thanks so much for watching. We'll do this another time, I think. We're going to do this a bunch.
I like this, Aslan. This is pretty cool. You got all kinds of gadgets to work with.
I'm trying, man. I mean, I don't know. It's just a hamster on a wheel up here trying to make everything go around. Thanks so much for watching, everybody. We're done.